Hello everyone, this is Zenith and welcome to my NFL 2023 to 2024 NFL Division Predictions. In this video, I'm going to predict every team's placement in all 8 divisions with my elite reasoning behind it. The tier list I'll be using will be in the description below. Well, enough introduction for me, let's get started. The first division I'll be doing is the NFC North. I'll put the Lions at first, Vikings in division runner-ups, my Bears in the middle of the division, and the Packers in last. The Lions are placed at first just because I feel like they are the most playoff ready out of the 4, with an elite offense consisting of Jared Goff, who was great with them last year, Amon-Ra St. Brown as wide receiver, and former Bears David Montgomery, who also did well for us last year. You also have Penei Sewell, who will be at offensive tackle, who's been elite for the Lions, a decent defense in Aiden Hutchinson, Jake Campbell, newly acquired vets like CJ Gardner-Johnson and Cameron Surtain as well, who will also make this defense in the middle of the pack. I also love Dan Campbell as their head coach, as he was a former Lion, which I feel like he'll be able to connect with the roster in a more like football type level. Overall, bright future and will be hella fun to watch this season. Next are the Minnesota Vikings at second, just because of the questions at defense and coaching. Don't get me wrong though, Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson will window a lot of games, as they also got Jordan Addison in the draft, which I am very excited to see play out. Their defense will also be mid, like I said before, with the only decent people being Daniel Hunter, Harrison Smith, and Marcus Davenport. If you Vikings fans feel like I missed any of your good players, make sure to put them down in the comments below. Overall, the Vikings will still be competitive, but not as competitive as Detroit, which is why I have them going second. The third team I put in the NFC North is my Chicago Bears. If you haven't noticed already, I'm a Bears fan, but today I'm not going to be as biased as I usually am. The Bears this offseason went crazy with signing talent around Justin Fields with key assets such as DJ Moore, Nate Davis, Robert Tonyan, and drafted key rookie in Darnell Wright, who will also play a big part in beefing our offensive line. You also have a high potential young secondary in Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, Tyreek Stevenson, and vets like Eddie Jackson, and our coverback one, Jalen Johnson. Key players such as Yannick, TJ Edwards, Tremaine Edmonds, who will also play a huge part in beefing the defense. I hopefully think this defense will be at least average and won't get torched every single drive like they did last year. Overall, if this team plays to their full potential, then they are absolutely going to shock a lot of people. I believe that Matt Eberflus will mature and discipline this team as a whole, and they can potentially get second place in the division as well. But just to be safe and a bit unbiased, I'll have them third in the NFC North. The last team I picked to go in the NFC North are the Green Bay Packers. I have zero hope for Jordan Love. I think he is a game manager at best. By next year, almost half the roster will leave to play for the Rodgers and the Jets. I like Christian Watson as their wide receiver one, and they also have an elite O-line as well. And on top of that, an elite running back duo in Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Their defense will probably carry them, as they have an elite linebacker core, front, and secondary. Overall, this defense will be straight up nasty for opposing teams to deal with. But overall, the reason why I have the Packers at last because of that bust at quarterback who will expose himself throughout the weeks. And on top of that, I feel like Matt LaFleur will get exposed for his coaching without Aaron Rodgers. All of this is why I feel like the Packers will be last. Moving on to the AFC North, I have the Browns at first, Bengals second, Ravens third, and Steelers last. But don't get me wrong, all these teams will finish the season with a winning record. So let's get started with the Browns. The Browns to me are the first because I feel like they are the most balanced team when playing to their full potential. That offense has Nick Chubb at running back, David Njoku at tight end, Amari Cooper and David Bell as wide receiver weapons, and on top of that, they have one of the best offensive lines in football. The defense is also elite with Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, and Taki. There's literally no excuse for Deshaun Watson this year. If he plays like he did in 2018, then this Browns team is 100% Super Bowl contenders. If the Browns do fail to live up to the hype, then they will be last in the division. Enough said. The second team I have in the AFC North are the Cincinnati Bengals. We still don't know if Joe Burrow will be healthy by week 1, so let's assume that he isn't. The Bengals are hands down a top 5 team in the AFC. with an elite top 3 wide receiver core that consists of Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. The Bengals also have a top 10 running back in Joe Mixon. The O-line is still a bit sus, but I know they signed Orlando Brown Jr., so hopefully that O-line will be a bit better than last year. But overall, the Bengals offense will be fine. The defense is still mid at best, but they have some dogs in Trey Henderson and Logan Wilson. Their secondary is alright though, but they're like below average at best. But they lost some talent, but rookie Daxton Hill, who looked amazing in preseason, looks promising, so I'll be keeping a good eye on him. They also have their good kicker, Evan McPherson, who is obviously a top 10 kicker in the league. So overall, this Bengals team, without a doubt, will be good per usual. The reason why I do have them at second and not at first, because I feel like the Browns will figure it out and Deshaun Watson balls out. But if he sucks and the Browns will live up to the hype, then the Bengals are 100% winning the division again. But now, due to me tiering this by the teams going at it at their very best, it's safe to put them in second for now. Third on the list are the Baltimore Ravens, because their team is slightly worse than the Bengals. Some parts of the team are a bit sus as well. They don't really have a secondary except for Kyle Hamilton and Marcus Peters, with Marlon Humphrey being out for the season with a foot injury. The D-line is great with monsters like former Bear Roquan Smith and Patrick Richardson, and a few other great players I haven't listed. The Ravens defense will be sus, but I'll keep a good eye on them. Their kicker, Justin Tucker, is automatic per usual and will win them some games. The offense still has Lamar Jackson, so I'm not worried about explosiveness. They also got OBJ, so I'll be glued on that connection. If the Ravens play to their full potential, then they can easily get second, but because the Browns and Bengals have a better team overall is the reason why I put the Ravens in the middle of the division. The last team I placed at fourth are the Pittsburgh Steelers, just because they aren't as explosive as the other three in my opinion, but I 100% expect them to finish the season strong with a winning record with Mike Tomlin as head coach. The Steelers 100% have the best defense in the North, with J.J. Watt leading them, but the question is, will Kenny Pickett take that next step? If he and George Pickens balls out, then they are a sleeper wildcard team 100%. But just because their offense lacks firepower out of the North is why I put them at last place. But I'm not counting at the Steelers at all, and I'm expecting them to 100% prove me wrong. Moving on to the NFC South, I have the Falcons at first, Saints at second, Buccaneers at third, and Panthers in last. The Falcons are first just because I feel like they have the best potential in the South. I feel like Desmond Ridder can put it all together with Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and newly acquired Butchin Robertson. Then their offense will be just overall fun to watch. Not to mention their newly bolted defense, as they are really solid with AJ Terrell, Grady Jarrett, and Jesse Bates, who was newly acquired from the Bengals. The kicker, Younghoe Koo, is an elite kicker, and Arthur Smith is an underrated coach overall. If that team plays to their full potential, they 100% win the wide open NFC South. The Saints are second just because of the coaching, to be honest. I have zero hope for Dennis Allen, as I feel like he doesn't even know what he's doing. The team will be good, but the coaching is going to be garbage. The team will be good with Derek Carr, Michael Thomas, and Chris Olave, with the side of an elite offensive line and defense with Marshawn Lattimore, Cam Jordan, and Tyrann Mathieu. I just think overall Dennis Allen will be carried by this team. Despite his garbage coaching, this team will stay at second. But if he coaches well, then the Saints will get first, of course. The Buccaneers are third just because they have an elite wide receiver duo in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and a good running back in Rachaad White. Their O-line will have a few question marks because I know their center has had a season-ending injury, so I'll be looking at how they'll be able to cope and fix their O-line before Week 1 starts. But their defense, I expect them to still be consistent with Shaquille Barrett, Devin White, and Levante David. Same issue I have with the Saints, I have with this team, because Todd Bowles is even a worse head coach than Allen. He couldn't even win with Tom Brady last year, which is just mind-blowing. But just because his team is better than the Panthers is the reason why they are third. The last team is obviously the Panthers. They drafted Bryce Young, and I'm personally rooting for him. But let's be honest, who does he even have on offense? The defense only has Brian Burns and J.C. Horn if he's healthy. But other than that, the Panthers are going to be garbage this year, and that's why I'm putting them last in the NFC South. On to the AFC South, I have the Jaguars in first, Titans second, Colts third, Texans fourth. I have the Jaguars at first in the AFC South just because they won the South last year and they'll do it again this season. Doug Pearson has done numbers for his team, and I 100% believe that Trevor Lawrence will take that next step as he has a decent O-line. Calvin Ridley is back as well. Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, and Jamal Agnew will also play a huge part in that offense. Josh Allen and Javon Walker are also going to be key factors in that defense. Overall, this team is the only functional team in the AFC South, which is why I have them winning the South for a second straight year. The Titans are second just because of Mike Vrabel, Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, and Jeffrey Simmons, and nothing else. They have no defense outside Simmons. DeAndre Hopkins is washed up, but will still be a better option than the rest of those McDonald's employees working as wide receivers for the Titans. The Titans overall have 1-to-none weapons, average defense, but good coach. They have a way better roster than the bottom two divisions, which is why they'll be finishing second in the division. The Colts are in the middle of the division just because they have elite defense and decent weapons, such as Michael Pittman Jr., Alec Pierce, and Mo Alley-Cox, but they also have a rookie quarterback in Anthony Richardson as well, who will show flashes, but because of that god-awful O-line, the team will be mid, which is why I have them finishing third. At last, I have the Texans because they also have a QB in CJ Stroud, but they have 80% nobodies on that team. Former 49ers defensive coordinator DeMeco Ryans is going to be a good coach dealing with a garbage team. I do expect Will Anderson to cook alongside Jalen Pitre, Derek Stingley if he stays healthy overall, and Jonathan Greenard. Overall, because the rest of the team are either underrated or complete nobodies, is why I put them last in the AFC South. Next, I'm going to do the NFC East with the Eagles at first, division champions, Cowboys in division runner-ups, the Washington Commanders in the middle of the division, and the New York Giants last in the division. Hear me out. The Eagles are first just because they're the best NFC team last year. They contended in the Super Bowl but came out short. I do fully expect Jalen Hurts to ball out overall with that Super Bowl caliber team once again, so there's no surprise why they're first. The Cowboys are second just because they have a slightly better team than Commanders, and I feel like the Eagles are slightly better than them, but they 100% have the best defense in the East. But because the Eagles were the NFC champions, it's just really hard to rank the Cowboys at first. My thing with Dak is he's going to be a good quarterback in the regular season, but he disappears in the playoffs, and he's not the type of quarterback to win you any games past that divisional round, which is why I have them at second. The Commanders are third just because their team is slightly below the Cowboys, but this team has the best potential out of the whole East with Sam Howell, who looks to take this team to the next level. If Sam Howell can do that with that underrated talent around, then this team can potentially win the division and be a sleeper wild card. But because they're slightly worse than the Eagles and Cowboys is why I have them in the middle of the division for now, but don't sleep on them. Last, I have the Giants, sorry Andrew, just because I think they already reached their full potential at the moment, and simply because of Daniel Jones at quarterback, who is a proven field general who won't win you the Super Bowl at all. But this team is going to prove me wrong anyway, like last year, and finish strong and probably make the playoffs as well. Next is the AFC East. I have the Buffalo Bills as the division champions, Dolphins at second, New York Jets at third, and the New England Patriots in last. The Bills are first just because they arguably have the most playoff experience as a team, and because of that they'll go higher than everyone else in the East to try and contend for a Super Bowl, so that's a no-brainer. The Dolphins are second just because of their lack of playoff experience and minor injuries with key players like Terron Armstead with offensive tackle and Jalen Ramsey with defense. They have the best offense in the East, to be honest, in my opinion, and a very solid defense, but it's honestly all up to Tua to lead them to the promised land. No excuses for him this year. The Jets are third just because they have a very young team and a very unexperienced team in terms of the playoffs. Because of Aaron Rodgers' presence, this team will definitely ball out and make the playoffs and potentially make a run. But I'm keeping them third just in case Aaron Rodgers starts to show his age again and hold this team back. In last place, I have the Patriots because they aren't really as talented as the rest of the East, and I think Mac Jones will take them nowhere. But Coach Belichick always has something up his sleeve, which is why I'll be keeping a very close eye on this New England Patriots team. But for now, I just have them at last. The second to last division of this video is the NFC West. I have 49ers first, Seahawks second, Rams third, and Cardinals fourth. The 49ers are obviously first because they're arguably also one of the best, no, the best NFC team. You can argue between the Eagles and 49ers, but they have an elite offense consisting of big names such as George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams, and Kyle Juszczyk. The defense will also still remain top 3 in the league with players such as Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Jason Hargrave, Dre Greenlaw, Jason Jennings, Eric Armstead, Jimmy Ward, and Hufanga. All these players will take this team back to a division win and potentially another championship spot. Brock Purdy will obviously be starting after Trey Lance got kicked into Dallas. I believe Brock Purdy is going to live up to the hype and 100% send this team very far. I have the Seattle Seahawks at second just because they have a slightly worse O-line and team overall than the 49ers, but they still got dogs on offense and defense. Geno Smith will still be decent with weapons such as DK Metcalf, Kenneth Walker, D. Estrith, Tyler Lockett, and future baller in Jackson Smith-Njigba. That offense alone will be fun to watch. The defense has names such as Mario Edmonds Jr., Devin Bush, Bobby Wagner, Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs, Tariq Woolen, and Devin Witherspoon. Slowly but surely, the Legion of Boom is coming back, but just because the 49ers are better and they were in the NFC Championship last time is why I have the Seahawks remaining in second place. The Rams are third, and they'll be completely garbage with Arizona as well, but they're not as bad as Arizona. Sean McVay is going to have his hands full with a bunch of nobodies on this team. The only elite players left on this team are Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, and Matthew Stafford. Some will argue he's not really elite and he's needs to be retired or something. Overall, this team sacrificed their future picks for a Lombardi, and because of that, they'll continue to decline as the years go by. Last place is obviously the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals will be fourth because they are completely garbage. Jonathan Gannon is garbage. He literally lost the Eagles at Super Bowl with that horrendous Eagles defense play. The defense will be garbage except for Budda Baker, and Kyler Murray will have to put up points with a bunch of nobodies on that offense. Moving on to the final division, in the AFC West, I have the Kansas City Chiefs at first, Los Angeles Chargers in second, Denver Broncos in third, and the Las Vegas Raiders in last. The Chiefs are number one because they literally just won the Super Bowl and they have MVP Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. Enough said, no analysis there. The Chargers are second just because Brandon Staley is holding them back. I'm very confident Justin Herbert will lead this team to the playoffs again, but the question is, will Brandon Staley screw them over again? Because the question marks around Staley managing the Chargers is why I put them at second. The Broncos are third just because it all comes down to whether or not Russell Wilson wants to play at an elite level or not. If he does, then this team can 100% win the division as they have an elite defense, an elite coach in Sean Payton, and an elite offensive use to their full potential. Because the Chargers and Chiefs offense are better is why they are placed at third. Lastly is the Las Vegas Raiders, as I think Jimmy G won't be a long-term at quarterback. Yeah, he has the Devontae Adams, but I feel like sooner or later when the Raiders start playing like garbage, he's going to go straight to the Jets to play with Aaron Rodgers. But Josh Jacobs and Hunter Renfrow will still be elite overall, so those are some weapons in case Devontae Adams abandons ship. The Raiders' offense at their full potential can be one of the most explosive in the league, but because Max Crosby is like the only elite defensive player in a bunch of nobodies, and with that garbage head coach with Josh McDaniels, is why I have the Raiders last in the AFC West. So here it is, everyone. Here are my NFL 2023 to 2024 division predictions. Feel free to comment where you did agree or disagree with parts of the video, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content as always.